If you live in an expensive area and want to buy your first investment property, by the end of the video, you're going to have clear action steps that allow you to find a cheap area close to you to invest in. I currently live in Manhattan. The most expensive real estate in the US is here. So I understand. The same could be said for Toronto, where my friend Paul is a real estate agent at. Paul?
Thanks, Antonio. Toronto can be a very expensive market like Manhattan as well.
Listen, and I get it. Since it's your first investment, you want to be 100, even 1,000% sure that it makes you money off the start and doesn't cost you any money, doesn't make you lose any money down the line. So in order for me to feel safe about my first investment, it needed to be somewhere that was close, somewhere that I could see, somewhere that I can go. The only issue is that New York City area is one of the most expensive areas in the nation. So what was I supposed to do? The home values are just way too expensive here. Like, seriously, who in the world in their right mind is gonna pay $55 million for this piece of shit place? So you're stuck, feeling like you gotta go buy out of state, somewhere in the middle of the US where the homes are really cheap, like only 100 grand. $9,500 for a 2-bed, 2-bath. Your mortgage payment would be $52 a month. Anyone with any sort of job could afford that. This left me just feeling trapped. Like I could never get started living in New York City. Whether it was investing here or investing out of state, both of those options just didn't seem good enough to me.
She has got a plan for you.
This is exactly how I felt. I lived in Manhattan, one of the most expensive places on earth. And I bet you, Paul, did you find anything better over there in Toronto?
You can still find some condos to buy in this city. It isn't quite as expensive as Manhattan yet. The problem is most of them don't cash flow, and that window of opportunity is closing, so it won't be around much longer.
So then I started looking right outside the city, and still everything was too expensive and I couldn't afford anything. And on top of that, none of these places actually cash flowed. I was so frustrated that I stopped even looking in this area and I just started looking across the country in random ass places like, why not North Carolina? Seriously, why not? The thing is that I was really scared of investing in a place that I had never been to before, especially for my first property, where I was even more scared to mess up. This left me feeling so trapped, like I had nothing to do other than to keep saving and waiting. I was not ready to give up, so I did one last thing. I wrote out a list of all the places that I knew, and that's when Ewing, New Jersey popped back into my head. It was an area that was just 2 hours outside of New York City, and the best part is the home values were cheap enough that I could get started, and I used to live there for 5 years, so I knew everything about the area. The thing is you don't have to feel trapped. There's a way to find a place nearby that's cheap enough that you can invest in and close enough that you can still drive to, hopefully. Here is the step-by-step process to find that location. So the first thing you gotta do is make a list of all the towns that are nearby. And if you don't know any of them and you're brand new to this city, pull up the Google Maps app and literally just start looking at the map and start writing down cities. It's that simple. Step 2, go to Zillow. Step 3, you're gonna download this sheet from Zillow. I'll leave the name right here on screen. It gives you the time series of all of the home values, the median home values in every area that Zillow tracks from the beginning of like 1996 all the way every single month till now. So you'll have the latest home prices on that sheet. Step 4, look up city number 1 on your list. Step 5, is go to the last month's home prices. The easiest way to do this on a Mac is to press Command and then click the right button when you're highlighted on a cell in that row. And the same thing can be done on Windows with Control and the right arrow on a cell in that row. Step 6, write that down. Step 7 is repeat steps 4 through 6 for every city you have on that list. Step 8, take the cheapest 3 towns you find. Step 9 then is to do location research. And I've done a video on this in the past, but what you need to do is go out and find data points for each factor that matters when it comes to picking a location. Then you're gonna use those data points and compare them across all the cities to figure out which one is the best.
And part of what Antonio said, so let me jump in here, part of that research is making sure that the city you buy in, you know, there's population growth, there's job growth, there's wage growth, and that's not keeping up with the supply of real estate. Now around, you know, cities like around Manhattan and Toronto, when you go, you know, just outside those cities, they all benefit from what I would call, you know, big city effect, like Manhattan effect or Toronto effect. But if you're buying, you know, in, say, a B city or another part of the country, you definitely want to look out for that. Make sure that those numbers are indeed growing.
Now, here's one caveat with this whole process, is that you might have to sacrifice being super close to the property for something along the lines of 1 to 2 to 3 to maybe even 4, 5, 6 hours away by driving. What I found was a place that was 2 hours away from me. One of my students found a place that was 2.5 hours away from him. These are all doable things if you look in the right places. Now, you might have to go 3, 4, 5, 6 hours away, but that's the sacrifice you're gonna have to make if you don't want to invest close or out of state. The goal is to give you that peace of mind so you can actually know that you can see the property, you can see the area that you're investing in, but also making it cheap enough that allows you to invest without breaking the bank. So now, let's say that you don't want to invest outside of the city and you actually want to find a way to make it work inside the city you're in. My friend, real estate agent, real estate investor, and fellow YouTuber, Paul, is going to show you exactly how to do that in Toronto.
Come and check out my video. Would love to have you, where I talk about, you know, the how and why of getting into an expensive market, expensive major city like Toronto or Manhattan. I'll show you 3 specific ways you can do that.